Good morning. If you could join me in Gasho, please. Beginning to tune into even the minutest feeling of gratitude softens us. If we begin to acknowledge these moments and cherish them, then no matter how fleeting and tiny this good heart may seem, it will gradually, at its own speed, expand. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandots. 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 Well, good morning. I was thinking about, was actually written by Pema Chodron, a wonderful Tibetan Buddhist teacher. And I was thinking about it because someone had asked me about the Essentials of Buddhism course. And I normally offer that 3 times a year here at BCSF. 3 or 4 times, actually. I try to do it every quarter. But because of my duties around the World Buddhist Convention, which is happening August 30th through September 1st, I haven't been able to offer the course. And so periodically I get emails, and I really miss teaching it. I've taught Essentials of Buddhism here at the temple since 2008, for 11 years now. And the outline course is pretty established, yet the curriculum is constantly evolving. It's very dynamic, because I feel like that's how life is, constantly evolving and changing and very dynamic. So the course is an introduction to Buddhist teachings and practices, examining Buddhism as a textual tradition as well as an actual living practice. And at the end of each class, we explore and practice different types of meditation techniques. And so I offer this at the end. Each class is usually every Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30, 2 hours. And then the last 5 minutes, I introduce a Buddhist meditation technique. And I invite the students to practice that technique throughout the week. And I don't quiz them. I don't ask them about it. They're free to email me if they have questions around it, or contact me. But it's really their path. I'm trying to reinforce the fact that this is their path that they're walking, just like I have to walk, and each of you have to walk your own path. So the first class is a fundamental teaching of the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, or as we know, Shakyamuni Buddha, after his enlightenment. It's his life and his awakening experience. And then his first teachings of the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. And at the end of the class, I actually lead a somatic meditation. Somatic is when the body, rather than the mind, becomes the fundamental area of meditation practice. So we're simply trying to tune into the basic awareness of our body. It's right brain meditation rather than the more common left brain meditation. And it's a great introduction to meditation, and everyone can do it if you're alive and breathing. The second class, the second Thursday, is Major Buddhist Concepts. And we look at impermanence, we look at interdependence, we look at no self, insubstantiality, karma, enlightenment, the paramitas. In our tradition, there's 6, there are also 10. In the Theravada, the Brahma Viharas, compassion, loving kindness, appreciative joy, and equanimity, and so much more. All the major concepts in Buddhism that we hear about. And we kind of dispel what's kind of the cultural misappropriation and what's actually the root of these particular teachings. And so the second class meditation is one of my favorites. It's a meditation on metta, or loving kindness. Actually, we offer that. This is a plug. The last Saturday of every month, we offer metta meditation here at BCSF. The third class is the emergence of Buddhism. It begins with the Theravada tradition, then emerges the emergence of the Mahayana tradition, and then lastly the Vajrayana, or the Tantric tradition. Tantric, we have Tibetan Buddhism is Vajrayana, as well as Shingon in Japan. And the third class, meditation class, is a Tibetan visualization meditation that's called Donlin, which is sending and receiving. So we're using our breath to send as well as receive with the accompanying visualization. And then the fourth class, the last class of the course, is Buddhism in America. And it's an introduction of Buddhism into the U.S. mainland, beginning with the year 1853, when Chinese immigrants communities built their first temple here in San Francisco to preserve and promote their religious and cultural values, and to minister to the spiritual needs of its members. And then, of course, I fold into the Japanese immigration that would eventually arrive and begin building their own temples. And many people are surprised to hear that by 1900, there were 400 Buddhist temples along the West Coast. 400 by 1900. To me, that's remarkable. And I also talk about how 40 years later, at the World Parliament of Religions, the World Expo of 1893, a mostly white and middle-class group adopts and adapts a Buddhism taught by a compelling English-speaking Buddhist missionary, Angarika Dharmpala from Sri Lanka. And these two very different beginnings symbolize the dual developments of early Buddhism in America. I then deconstruct, towards the end of the class, deconstruct 4 Buddhist traditions. These are 4 traditions in the United States that I've practiced myself, I personally participated in, and I begin with the first of the top 3 U.S. Buddhist traditions. What do you think they are? What do you think the top Buddhist traditions? This is according to the U.S. Pew study of U.S. religions. What do you think the top number 1 Buddhist? Zen. Yeah, very good. First one is Zen in the Mahayana branch. Second one? Nichiren, Tibetan. And the third?
Theravada.
Yeah, Vipassana. So the very last and fourth tradition I deconstruct, which is not in the top 3, is Shin. So Jodo Shinshu, I have, Jodo Shinshu in 8 to 10 minutes. What would you say? All right, what would you say, Jodo Shinshu? That would make sense to people who've just come in, who've just done a comprehensive course on basic fundamental Buddhism. How would you explain it? Well, the way I explain it in a very short time, which seems to resonate with people, I have like a poster. And actually, I use the chalkboard a lot, and I use whiteboard. So in the middle is, I put enlightenment, and I have these arrows representing the Eightfold Path, right? These 8 arrows, and enlightenment's in the middle. And you can put the enlightenment, Pure Land, Nirvana, whatever you want in there. So that's in the middle. Then over here to your left, I put practice makes perfect, and I draw an arrow. And so the 3 prior traditions that I just deconstructed are all practice makes perfect. You practice, you practice, you practice, and eventually the goal is to recognize enlightenment or achieve enlightenment or recognize our own enlightenment that's always been there but has been obscured. For Shin, I then put Shin over here and an arrow pointing this way, and I got this expression from Reverend Kobata, and he doesn't remember where he got it from, but over here I put perfect makes practice. And that's how I begin to explain Shin. That perfect makes practice means we surrender to, in our common Shin liturgy, we say we entrust in, the perfection of boundless wisdom and compassion, those qualities of enlightenment that we call Amida. The difference between our Shin practice and the others is one of receiving rather than achieving. And I also state that none of these are better than the other. There's just one that's best for me. So this idea of receiving rather than achieving, right? We're receiving that light. The light of wisdom exposes my foolishness, my shadow side, while continuing to shine a light on the profound compassion that is always supporting and sustaining me. So we say the name Namo Amida Butsu, and I write out Namo Amida Butsu, and I explain its meaning. And like I said, people seem to understand this. They seem to get it. And it commands interest, and I'm happy to say a lot of people that have taken the Essentials of Buddhism have become BCSF members. Something has resonated with them and they've come back. So by the end of the course, the 4th week, the students have a much larger understanding of that huge, dynamic, and yet wonderfully interconnected tree we call Buddhism. So I always explain Buddhism as the branches. We have Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, and that the trunk of the tree are the fundamental teachings of the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, and that these branches and traditions are all just aspects, different aspects of the fundamental teachings. And so regardless of who you hear up there, Reverend Kobata, David Pading Sensei, Camille Pading, Leo Sensei, they're all of our teachings on this big tree we call Buddhism are expressing the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. And if the students at the end, I tell them, have more questions than when they came in with, then I've done my job. Because that is what Buddhism is. There is a really profound aspect of questioning on this path. And that's okay, that's actually encouraged. There's no blind faith. We're always looking at meaning, looking for meaning in what we do. So through the Essentials course, students begin to see how we're conditioned and socialized to always want what we want when we want it. In fact, we're teased and tantalized to wanting more and more. And we really suffer when we don't get what we want, right? That's dukkha. That's the first noble truth of the Buddha. The students begin to see how they've cultivated their habituations and are often blinded by passions and attachments and aversions and delusions. And how they protect and promote the ego as being the center of everything. But they also see and appreciate how their lives have meaning. Everything we do has meaning. Even when we think it's meaningless, we're doing it or not doing it for a reason, whether we're aware of it or not. What we do, what we say, and especially what we think has meaning. And for me, the Nembutsu shines a light on this meaning, sometimes in a celebratory, joyous way, and sometimes in a way that invites me to stop and reflect and see and acknowledge my own foolishness. Now it's several months ago, I attended a wonderful luau at the SACBC, Southern Alameda Buddhist Church, for Reverend Carol Hamaka. And her family had brought her up, and it was so good to see her and to see the improvements that she's been making. And it was also, for me, a proper send-off or closure for her and her SACBC family, because her illness happened so quickly, they weren't able to do this. So it was just such an open-hearted expression of oneness and joy. But leading up to the luau, Reverend Kobata had asked me if we wanted to carpool. We usually always carpool. This being an eco-sangha, we're very mindful of our carbon footprint. We have our fabulous solar panels up on our roof. We have our plastic reusable chopsticks. We're trying to do no plastic bottles in our temple. We have our pitchers. So we're really conscientious of being an eco-sangha, and I really appreciate that and appreciate Reverend Kobata for taking the lead in that. So, like I said, we commute a lot, and because his car was in the shop, he asked me if he could ride with me. Now, I have an older Hyundai. I bought it brand new 11 years ago, and it's aged and it's worn, but I am so grateful for this car. It has served me well. It still serves me well, and I just love driving it. It has a lot of zip. Because I don't have a garage in my building where I live, I have street parking. And so I live on Fell Street. I have Panhandle Park on one side, and then I have houses, apartments on the other side. And when I have to park on the park side, my car gets really filthy. I could wash it one day, and the next day, because of the eucalyptus trees and all the other trees from the Panhandle, the sprinklers, the car is just filthy. So the day before the luau, I went and washed my car. I took it down to the Van Ness car wash, $34. They do inside, outside. It was hands only, 7 people, making my car look fabulous. And it did look beautiful. And despite all the blemishes on my car, when I got in, I said, Namo Amida Butsu. I was so happy and grateful to these 7 hands, the people who vacuumed, the 2 folks who were scrubbing and washing, the 2 folks who were drying and spiffing the outside of my wheels, the inside people who were doing all these folks. I was just so profoundly grateful, and I said, Namo Amida Butsu. So I made sure not to park on the park side that night. So I parked on the house side away from the Panhandle Park. And the next day, when I got into my car to go pick Reverend Kobata up, I saw massive white bird droppings all over my sparkly clean car. I had parked near a light pole, and the light pole, the headlamp, extended over my car a bit. And so I looked up, and I saw a couple birds sitting up there just minding their own business on that headlamp, just being their natural selves, taking care of their natural functions. All the energy that went into presenting this perfect package, it didn't matter to them. My attachment to things being a certain way was comically exposed by my bird neighbors. And all I could do was chuckle and say, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu, because in the name is everything. Birth, death, joy, and suffering. It's all Namo Amida Butsu. Last week I received, actually it was longer than that, so a couple of weeks ago I received a call at home. And it was in the early morning, and it was from someone in the office in the morning. And it was about an incident that was unfolding in the office concerning the security of our cameras. Someone, not a police officer, not a temple member, or anyone associated with the temple, wanted to view our security footage. And so I was on the phone with Reverend Kobata, and the situation was tense because my understanding and his understanding were coming from different perspectives. And so he was sounding irritated, I was sounding irritated, and at some point I started to explain to him what the policy was, and all of a sudden I'm talking and I'm waiting for his response, and there's no response at the other end. And I'm like, he hung up on me. I can't believe it, he hung up on me. And then I just, like, the ego self of mine just started all these judgments, like, how could he hang up on me? How could that happen? And then I'm thinking, no, he wouldn't hang up on me. Maybe we got cut off. We were both on landlines, by the way. Maybe we got cut off or something. So I had to go to the office for a meeting. I was in the library. Sensei knocks on the door just a couple hours after. He opens the door. We say good morning. And I said, Sensei, did you hang up on me? Probably in that same high-squeaked, stressful voice. And he said, no, I thought you hung up on me. So I think one of us hit the mute button. But in hindsight, in this reasonable, calm, and non-agitated mind, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that Reverend Kobata would hang up on anyone. But I wasn't so generous in the middle of my stress and tension. And in fairness to Sensei, I'm a tad more fiery in personality, so it's not entirely out of the question that he may have thought that I actually hung up on him. Although what he doesn't know and didn't know at the time is that I have never hung up on anyone in my life. I am extremely proper when it comes to phone etiquette. So I think self-reflection in Shin really helps us to see the reality of our life as it is. And it helps me see the foolishness, bombu person as I am. And this awareness can't help but to bring about awareness. Shinran says so much in The Lamp for the Latter Ages, letter 20, when he writes, "Formerly you were drunk with the wine of ignorance and had a liking only for the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and folly. But since you've begun to hear the Buddha's vow of great compassion, you have gradually awakened from the drunkenness of ignorance, gradually rejected the 3 poisons, and come to prefer at all times the medicine of Amida Buddha." So maybe through awareness of great compassion, supporting and sustaining me, and sustaining all of us always, despite our foolishness, maybe because of this insight, we strive to be a little kinder, a little more patient, a little more generous, not only materially, but also with our judgments. It's really about an inner transformation. What gives our life meaning? The name Namo Amida Butsu encompasses everything: birth, death, joy, and suffering. The name not only awakens us to the oneness of life, but it also engenders it. It gives rise to this truth. So surrendering to and entrusting in the vow, as Alfred Bloom states, is a transforming personal experience, and the Nembutsu is a lens for understanding this life. Please join me in Gassho. From the words of our founder, Shinran Shonin, the great practice is to say the name of the Tathagata of unhindered light. This practice, embodying all good acts and possessing all roots of virtue, is perfect and most rapid in bringing about birth. It is the treasure ocean of virtues that is true reality. For this reason, it is called great practice. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandots. 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 Thank you.